All right, so as soon as I turned the recording off and started getting the table trimmed, I ran into a problem. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but usually when I do this, I just stick this right in the middle, so it's kind of free spinning. And it's kind of weird because as I rotate it to the right, it starts to bind up and the indicator drops down. So it's like super tight right here, can barely spin it with my hand. And then when I loosen it and I go to the left, it spins perfectly fine. So I think, can't remember if there's a jam nut up here. There's gotta be something on the adjustment for the roller bearings. There's gotta be I'm sure there's a jam nut and it must have backed off. So I'm gonna pull the spindle. I'm guessing I'm probably gonna have to at least take this top piece, the cover off to get in there. I don't know, I'm gonna start with the circlip here and see if maybe there's a way to get the bearing up, because I think that would expose the jam nut. Actually, the jam nut may even be underneath there. I think this has a place. Ooh. I think this has a, yeah, oh, look at that. There it is. Awesome. Well, that explains my problem there. So yeah, there's probably a jam nut up there. I can't see up there, but you guys can. The spindle has always gotten pretty warm. Not like I can't hold my hand on it warm, but it definitely heats up, and I wonder if it was just getting tight in there. Oh yeah, is that moving? I don't know. Oh yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it might just be a good idea to just try to pull it all out and get some fresh grease on it. Yeah, let me put you on, let me see if I can get you mounted up here, and I'll go grab some more tools. All right, got my snap ring pliers, and I tried to vacuum all the crap off of here. Make sure it doesn't just drop out. No way this is the only thing holding it. Let's see. Yeah. Didn't think so. Let's see, what bearing is that? It's a 6007 RS. Not even a name brand. That's fancy schmancy. All right, let's see. Pull the motor off. It's got these tapered roller pins in here. I'm gonna Google a parts diagram just to make sure before I pull everything off, but pretty sure I have to pull everything off. So yeah, I'll bring you back once I figure it out. All right, so these little tapered pins that are in here, there is 1, 2, no, looks like there's only 2. And then there's also these things that come out. So I have just a M6 bolt and a nut and a washer. And what I'm gonna do is thread it into that first tapered pin. Just thread her in there a little ways. And then I'll tighten the bolt down on it. So you might have to get a spacer. It just depends on how far in your pin is. Mine are in there pretty deep, so I can grab them just like that. I think I got it. Come on. Come on. Let's go a little more. Yeah, there's your tapered pin, so it tapers big to small. And feels like it's moving, or wanting to move. Not a big fan of cramming screwdrivers into machine surfaces, but not sure how else to get this off. Maybe a wrench. Try to get it on the flats of the wrench. Over the Allen wrench. There's nowhere to grab it up front here. Well, maybe I was supposed to pull those on out of there first. Guess that ship has kind of sailed now. I definitely don't want to be pulling all the gears out. I'm not filling up for it. Stick that screwdriver in here. There's a spacer. I'll get like a brass punch or something. See if we can hammer that thing the rest of the way down. Alright, we got our punch. Well, there you have it. They do have some good looking gears in there. I'll give them that. They do look pretty well made. They're heat treated. Definitely hardened. I don't remember what kind of oil I put back in here. It's like grease in there. When I originally bought it, that was the first thing I did was change the oil. Ran it for a few minutes, got everything mixed up good in there, and then changed the oil. Man, I don't know. I don't think these were supposed to come with us. Yeah, so there'll be, this one still has the bearing on it. This one had a bearing and it's probably still pressed into the housing down there. Would have been nice if they just came out up here. I'm guessing if you were to pull those caps out, you'd have a way to punch these out. Must be what the caps are for, because like I was saying, I'm gonna go grab like a little Rubbermaid bin to stick this head in. Hopefully it doesn't fall. That oil is like the consistency of grease almost. Yeah, grab a bin. Heavy. All right, so here's one gear selector and the deal that it rides in. Might have to drain this oil to get to make sure I didn't lose anything. Yeah, I'm missing the little bronze guide on this guy. So yeah, it's gonna be somewhere down there in that lake of nasty gear oil. Gear oil has a particular stench. I'm not a huge fan. It's not terrible, but for an oil, it has a lot of smell to it. Some stank. I wonder what was binding up. As I spun it forward, I wonder if it was just that ring. It was that ring because I had my dial indicator, and as the indicator was pushed up against that ring, as I spun it this way, it unscrewed the ring and pushed against the dial indicator. And that was what was pushing the indicator down into the table and making it bind up. Wish I would have looked into that a little more. It just seemed like a jam nut or something. Because this feels, I mean, that feels good and tight. Good and tight. Still got my key in there. Get that down in there. Yeah, I gotta find that little brass guide. It's down in the abyss, apparently. Let me grab, oh, I got a rag. There she is. Now we gotta see if, wow, that's just a tension pin. Look at that. It's a tension pin with no more tension on it. And it goes into this guy. I think while I'm in here, I can kind of take a gander at everything. I want to someday switch to a variable speed motor. I think the easiest way, if I can, would be to get a new motor that maybe has the same or a similar bolt pattern, and just leave this in medium speed or whatever it needs to be in to get the RPM range I want. I think the problem with that is these gears are only rated, they can only spin so fast before they overheat or die. The other idea I had was switching to linear rails and somehow retrofitting like a nicer mill just the whole head. If I could find like a used high-speed spindle head and everything off of like one of the smaller Tormachs maybe, that would be pretty nice, I think. Because this head only goes 1500 RPMs, and that's just way too slow if you're trying to do some CNC machining. So I just want to make sure that this pin was cut. Pretty sure they cut it with just a grinder, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't rubbing, and I don't think it was. Just wanted to see if I could punch that pin just a little further in. I guess I could wedge a screwdriver into it and try to make it a little tighter. All right. See if that made it any tighter. So it goes in. Yeah, she's tighter now. Still not a great way for this to be set up though. See if I can press it in. At least it's a press fit now though. So I spread it out a little more with the screwdriver, and I've got it pushed all the way in beyond the face just a little bit. That way, if somehow this did wear, it doesn't look like it wore at all. But if the pin somehow did work its way in, it would have to go a little bit further to actually start rubbing on something important. I got something's not right. Yeah, something's off. This is right where it should be sitting to be in first low speed. Oh, it must go out. And I just didn't notice. That makes more sense. Look at that. Yeah, it goes outwards. Okay. Good to know. Now the trick is going to be to get all the gears back in without losing a dowel or anything. So I'm going to stick a little bit of grease up in this spline and on this spline. That's where the that's a sliding surface. This whole spline, this is the spindle head, and this is what drives it. This is the drive gear for the spindle head, and then it must shift between high and low. This is alright. So the motor mounts back here, comes in and drives. Looks like this bottom gear down here, and then you can shift it 1, 2. So there's 3 different speeds here. Right here, the motor's driving this, which is driving this. So motor drives this gear, and in this speed, it would drive this gear, which would drive this gear, which would drive one of these on the main spindle gear. And you can shift between this big gear riding on this, or this medium gear riding on a medium gear. Shift it into, let's see, it goes low, medium, or medium, high, low. So this would be high gear right here. Motor drives this, which drives this bigger gear, which drives this smaller gear, yeah, which would make it faster, and then drives the main output. And then one more gear. This would be low speed here. So motor drives this gear, which drives this little gear, which drives this big gear. So a little gear driving a big gear is gonna go slower. The small gear has to rotate more times to spin the big gear. So that would be your low speed, medium speed, or actually high speed, and medium speed. 6007 RS. RS stands for radial seal. So just in case anybody needs these measurements or these bearings, they are 2.426 inches wide, or 2.43 inches wide, which is 61.76 millimeters. 62 millimeters actually. And then the inside diameter is about 35. And then they look like they're about 10 millimeters thick. All right, I did some more finagling with it and got the gears out. So this gear here captures this whole thing. Not sure. This bearing here does have a shoulder it goes against, so it could never work its way up. This bearing looks like it should be pressed in more. It's sticking out quite a bit compared to this one. They're both sticking out a little, but this one's quite a bit more. I can't tell. Can't tell if it's supposed to be in more. Maybe I'll give it a little tap. Alright, so this guy felt like, yeah, it wanted to come out. Yeah, these gears, they look nice. So this is a ZX32G 02-014 GX15 6.20 A-6. I'm sure you can figure out the gear modulation or modulation. Is that what metric uses? I don't know. Can't remember. Yeah, I wish there was an easier way to make this thing go faster. Probably just swap out all the gears and just run like a 2-speed maybe. I would have to get a smaller gear on the spindle and a bigger drive gear somewhere. I'd have to really sit down and look at it to figure that out. Alright, I'm gonna bring the camera back up here and we'll get the gears put in. So I'm just lining up the height of each one because they need to be on the same plane. So I've just got it kind of lined up similarly. Oh, I got something way wrong. One of these is upside down. Let's see here. So this one here is the right way. This one's upside down. There we go. They're gonna go something like this. I'm just gonna try to figure out where they go, and then I'll put the shifter slider thingies in. Alright, where does the shifter run? There we go. So we got that shifter in, and we got that that shifter in. And I'm not 100% sure, but I still think this is probably easier than leaving it in the lid. Because at least I can kind of work it around with my hand and try to feel for the holes. Easiest would be draining the oil, so you'd be able to see in there maybe a little better. I swear I had it in the hole just a second ago. Alright. That guy's in. I still have the brass guide in place. Now we gotta try to get this guy in. Oh, there we go. Uh-oh. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm gonna see if I can just tap them in just a little bit. My piece of brass here. So you don't want to go crazy tapping on everything, banging on everything, because you don't want to have it be caught on a gear. So just tap it in a little and then rotate everything. Make sure everything is still moving. Feels like it's all the way down. They look pretty even. So yeah, a lot of this is supposedly a 2 horsepower motor, but it's not. There's no way. It also says it's a 220 motor, but it's also not. It's a 110 motor. So it's got the wrong tag on it. But it takes quite a bit of, well, not a lot, but it's not easy to rotate from all the way back here, all the way up to your spindle. I don't know. Oh, this needs to go down. It does need to go down more, I think. Yeah, it does. I think it does, maybe not. Maybe, what am I missing? That's down all the way. Which gear is riding? It's like barely even on this gear. On this spindle. Seems like it's supposed to go down even more, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't, because these gears right here, everything is in the detent, and the gears down here line up perfect. But when you shift it into high speed, like barely even half of the gear is touching this gear. So this gear here needs to come up, or the detent needs to be lower. There is a little bit of space. Wouldn't make a difference if, and it definitely goes this way because you can see the gear is tapered on one edge or beveled. That's to help it shift into gear. This one's beveled, the bottom of this is beveled, that way they mesh easier. They line themselves up. Well, it's been like this for a long time. I guess all we can do is hope that maybe when I get the lid on, maybe these will go down a little more. I don't think so though. I think they feel like they're all the way down. Guess we'll see. When I get the lid on, that'll line everything up and help it go down if it needs to. So I got this old tube of RTV. It's still soft in the middle. So I'll just cut open a little edge of it here. You can really only use this RTV unless you're using it often. Once you open it, you can use it one more time. You got to seal it up after you've opened it the first time. And then the second time you need it, that's when you have to cut something in the side. Sometimes you can get a few uses, like 3 uses out of it, but not often. So I'm just going to put the tiniest layer all the way around. Go around the outside, because these holes are, well, some of them are open. If this were anything other than the lid for a milling machine, you'd want to get this surface perfectly clean. I'm not going to waste unnecessary time cleaning it all off, because it's just not, there's not going to be much of a leak even without RTV. It's almost all the way seated, and I'm going to use the bolts to seat it the rest of the way. So first thing I'm going to do is get my tapered pins. So if I recall correctly, they were 2 slightly different sizes, and one sat in there way further than the other, or actually maybe one of the holes was drilled deeper. That's probably maybe it. Let's look. So the fat end is about 10.97, and yeah, 10.95, so they're pretty much the same. 10.04, 10.05, 6, 4. This one's got some paint on it. You're gonna want to wipe that off. Okay. So we'll drop our pins in. Was it right there? Yeah. And that should line us up. I'll just tap them in a little ways. I don't know, man. I think that they might have drilled those a little too deep. So, nothing we can do now except complain about cheap equipment being cheaply made. You know, it's the way she goes. You're probably not supposed to put grease on a motor shaft. I don't know, but I'm just gonna put a tiny bit just to help keep it from rusting, because it's got some rust on it. Not really rust, but you know, like rusty grease looking crap, like that. Everything feels nice and tight. See if we can get the motor up here now. Got some Chinese writing in there. Anybody know what that says? This is not a 220 motor. It's actually 110. That's probably what it says. Yeah, this is stamped 220 volt, 2 horsepower, and it is not a dual voltage motor. 1720 RPM. I wonder if I could swap it for like a 3450 motor. Double my RPM. I think if I did like a 220 volt motor, swapped it out for where did my key go? I don't see a key in there. Oh no, we might have lost our key. Definitely not in there. Shoot. I didn't pull it out, so it must have fallen. And it must have fallen when I was messing with it, because otherwise it wouldn't have been able to get out there. How? Yeah, I don't remember pulling a key out. So it must be in there. That's super duper lame. Alright, round 2 went a little better. I pulled out the cap above this bearing. That way I could tap it out and leave everything down in there. And there's our key that we lost. Had to dig around, but it was down there. Hopefully there's nothing else down there. Sure, someday we'll find out. Hopefully that day's a long ways away though. Well, here's one of those plugs. And it just pulled out. Took a little bit of pulling to get it out, but just pulled right on out. I got this circlip. Man, I'm gonna have to pull the motor off to throw this circlip on, and then I thought it, for some stupid reason, I thought it went right up here. But no. No, it does go right up here. What in the world? Huh. Did this bearing get pushed up? Might have to try tapping this bearing down. Huh, that's weird. And I wonder if that would help our gear meshing. Maybe. Because I think those gears that weren't meshing right are under this bearing. Alright, I'm gonna try tapping this bearing down and see if it goes down, or if I need to somehow take it all apart and somehow raise that up. I don't know. Well, I'm getting pretty dang good at taking the dang lid off of this stupid thing 3 times in one day. That's gotta be a record, right? I'm saying it is. I got the record. Getting my practice in, you know, in case I ever have to do this under pressure, like a Formula One pit car crew. I will be the fastest milling machine lid taker offer, putter backer on her ever. All because I figured that this would fit where it needed to fit without having to have the circlip, but it just goes up and down in there. So you have to pull the gear out and install it in the lid with the circlip before you put it on the mill, which seems dumb, but that's the way it is. So, all right, let's fire it up. So here's first gear and low, forward, reverse. Sounds about the same. Second gear and low, forward, reverse. Sounds good. And as fast as it goes, forward and reverse. And I never used the thing in reverse in high speed, so I really don't know if that's the normal noise it makes, but it doesn't sound good. Could just be, there is a couple of helical spur gears. They're not like a full-blown differential gear, but they are curved. So maybe it's like the reverse in your car. But I don't know. It doesn't matter. I never use the thing in reverse, and it sounds fine going forward. So it's good enough for me. It's almost 2 in the morning now. I would have been done a good 2 hours or more ago if I hadn't had to mess around with that stupid gear, trying to get lined back up and having to key fall out and all the other crap, man. Never goes your way. That was silly. I knew I had to put that circlip on. I didn't like forget about it. That was gonna be the last thing I put on. I just didn't realize that it had to be on before you put the lid on. So that's kind of a bummer, but yeah, we'll get back at it tomorrow. Get it trimmed in and probably start cutting, start milling out one of the knife scales at least. It's not really a scale, it's the actual frame. But yep, thanks for watching. See you later. Dude. Well, gonna have to pull the motor one more time. That'll be it for tonight. I'm gonna call it a night. Get some sleep and hit it hard tomorrow after work. All right, see you later.